Greetings, brothers and sisters. This is Sister Sonia here at Last Remnants of God's Army. Thank you all so much for joining me here today on this channel. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Brothers and sisters, I want to talk to you about something that is rather interesting and fascinating, but also something that we need to understand as we prepare ourselves in these last days. And this is in reflection of talking about who are the Nephilim. And without further ado, we're going to take a look at this from the perspective of the book of Enoch along with Bible scriptures. And with this being said, I'm also going to share some videos with you that explain in further depth and detail about how the Nephilim came about to be and what happened and what is it that we need to know and be aware of in these last days. So without further ado, let us examine what are the Nephilim giants. Now, according to the book of Enoch, or the book of Watchers, it consisted of a group of 200 angels who had been sent to watch over the earth and all of humanity. And these are the angels who decided to betray the Most High God Yahweh. Now, according to the book of Enoch, or the book of Watchers, we see in chapter 6 this conspiracy being made amongst the angels, and it reads the following. When the sons of men had multiplied in those days, this is during the time of the days of Noah, beautiful and comely daughters were born to them, and the watchers, the sons of heaven, the B'nai Ha-Elohim, had saw them, and they desired them. And they said to one another, Come, let us choose for ourselves wives from the daughters of men, and let us beget children for ourselves. And Semyaza, their chief, said to them, I fear that you will not want to do this deed, and I alone shall be guilty of a great sin. So we know that according to the book of Enoch, or the book of Watchers, we know that the leader of the fallen angels, Semyaza, some pronounce, had concocted this plan to wanting to fornicate with the women, and knowingly so, and perfectly well, this was something of forbidden nature. And as you read in the Bible, this is something that even Jesus explains to the Pharisees and says very clearly that when we get to heaven, there will be no marriage will be like that of the angels. And angels are known to be perfect in their ways of being. But unfortunately, this was not the case for Semyaza and the other fallen angels. And it reads on the following, and they all answered and said, Let us swear an oath, and let us all bind one another with a curse, that none of us turn back from this counsel until we fulfill it and do this deed. Then they all swore together and bound one another with a curse. So, brothers and sisters, before I continue onward, this is exactly what has come to pass. And they decided to make a covenant pact with each other, knowing that they would get into some really serious trouble with that of the Most High God. And still, at the end of the day, knowingly perfectly well what would happen to them, they decided to make a pact with each other and bear the curse upon themselves. And continuing onward, and they were all of them, 200, who descended in the days of Jared. This is during the time of when Enoch was taken, and then the son Jared was on the earth, onto the peak of Mount Hermon. This Mount Hermon is known to be a very demonically infested place to this day, and a lot of people are afraid to go there. And they called the mountain Hermon because they swore and bound one another with a curse on it. And these are the names of the chiefs. Semyaza, this one was their leader. Artakoff, the second to him. Ramashel, third to him. Kokabel, fourth to him. And fifth to him, Ramal. Sixth to him, Daniel. Seventh to him, Zekel. Eighth to him, Barakel. Ninth to him, Azel. 10th to him, Hermani. 11th to him, Matarel. 12th to him, Ananel. 13th to him, Setawel. 14th to him. Shemshiel, 15th to him. Shariel, 16th to him, and 17th to him. Turiel, 18th to him. Yamiel, 19th to him. Yediel, and 20th to him. These are all of the chiefs of tens. Now here's where the problem really lies. It wasn't just only that they were trying to make a pact to fornicate with the women of the earth. They taught the people of the earth forbidden knowledge, things we were never supposed to know. And with this being said, it reads the following. These and all of the others with them took for themselves wives from among them such as they chose. And they began to go into them and to defile themselves through them, and to teach them sorcery and charms, and to reveal to them the cutting of roots and plants. So they taught the women of the earth witchcraft, occultic practices, sorcery, magic. They even taught them how to use certain plants and whatnot for medicine, otherwise known as pharmakia, which is what we know today in English pharmacy. And to confirm this even further, Azazel had taught the men to make swords of iron and weapons and shields and breastplates and every instrument of war. So this angel taught the men how to fight and wage war. He showed the metals of the earth and how they should work. Gold to fashion it suitably, and concerning silver, to fashion it for bracelets and ornaments for women. So he taught women how to make jewelry. And he showed them concerning anatomy and eye paint and all manner of precious stones and dyes. So he taught women how to wear makeup, to look alluring, to look seductive. And this is what the angels have taught them. And so this is something we need to be aware of. I'm not saying makeup is bad per se, but it depends on how you dress yourself up, ladies, with makeup. That makes all the difference in the world. And how you adorn yourself with jewelry and how you do your hair and things like that. The way that they taught it was to make you into a harlot. That's why. And the sons of men made them for themselves and for their daughters. And they transgressed and led the holy ones astray. So it's very similar to what we're going through today too. And there was much godlessness on the earth, and they made their ways desolate. Shemyaza taught spells and the cutting of roots. Hermione taught sorcery for the loosing of spells and magic and skill. Barakel taught the signs of lightning and flashes. Kokabel taught the signs of the stars, astrology. Ezekiel taught the signs of the shooting stars. Artikov had taught the signs of the earth. Shemazel taught the signs of the sun, the pathways of the sun. And Sariel taught the signs of the moon. And they all began to reveal the mysteries to their wives and to their children. And as men were perishing, the cry went up to heaven. So a lot of things were transpiring during this time period. So we see that the angels were teaching magic, sorcery, astrology. They were teaching things concerning the paths of the moon, the sun, and the way that the stars, and on all the sorts. So these are themes of forbidden knowledge that we were never supposed to know. But now we know it, and today it's known as witchcraft and New Age and all the sorts. Now in the midst of this, there's a reason why the men of the earth were crying up and perishing. And this is the reason behind it. It was because of the giants on the earth. Okay. And we're going to read further into this. These and all of the others took for them wives for themselves among such as they chose. Okay. And as they began to go into them and to defile themselves through them, these are the angels defiling the women, and to teach them sorcery and charms, and to reveal to them the cutting of roots and plants. And they conceived from them and bore to them giants, and the giants begot Nephilim. So even the giants had their offspring called the Nephilim. And to the Nephilim were born Eliud. And so these were like Titan types of giants, and they were growing in according to their greatness in size and stature. So the size of stature for every time they were breeding kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And because of that, it presented a huge problem over the course of period of time, as we see. And so with this being said, we read the following. They were devouring the labor of all the sons of men, and men were not able to supply them. And the giants began to kill the men and to devour them. And they began to sin against the birds and the beasts and the creeping things and the fish, and to devour one another's flesh. And they drank the blood. That's why they're abomination to God. And then the earth brought accusation against the lawless ones. So the blood of the innocents is crying from the ground to the Most High. Very similar circumstance of what had happened to Abel. The blood was spilt. And it's because these giants were eating their own parents and their siblings and all the people of the earth that were in their way, so to speak. Now, keep in mind, if we compare this to the Bible itself, we see that in the book of Genesis, chapter 6, lines 1 through 4, reads the following. Now it came to pass, when the men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and the daughters were born to them, that the sons of God, the Bnei Ha-Elohim, saw the daughters of men, and that they were beautiful, and that they took wives for themselves of all whom they choose. And the Lord God Yahweh said, My spirit shall not strive with man forever, for he is indeed flesh, yet his days shall be 120 years. Now there's a reason why he reduced the number of years. It's because he didn't want us to be in tune with sin forever. And we see that there's a big problem with the angels interfering with that of mankind and wanting to be like God. So without further ado, I want to share this video with you about the Nephilim. And very important to take note of, and very important to understand what kind of time and season we're in, because these Nephilim play a big role in what's happening in our lives today. And I don't want to really spoiler alert it just yet. So without further ado, we're going to take a look at this video about the Nephilim. So stick around and stay tuned.
Before history was recorded in stone, it was marked in flesh and fire by those who fell from the sky. Beings of light who chose darkness, whose sins would shape the fate of the world. This is the story of their transgression, of the colossal monsters they created, and of the earth they turned to ruin. There was an age shrouded in mystery, a time before even the days of Noah, a forgotten age whose shadows still whisper over creation. In that lost past, a darkness fell upon the world, silent and inexorable. In the heavens, the sons of God, the angelic watchers, guardians of humanity, raised their curious eyes. And it was then that they saw the daughters of men. Their beauty was intoxicating, almost forbidden. A single thought, simple and corrosive, took root in their hearts. Curiosity became desire, desire, rebellion. And with that act, the heavens shattered, eternity became unstable, and the world knew a chaos no man would ever forget. Giants walked the earth, Cities were built of iron and blood, and the echo of that sin resounded through the generations. Everything we know today was born from the shadows of those who dared to defy heaven. Under a heavy sky laden with an unspoken fate, Samjaza, the leader of the fallen angels, gathered 200 of his brothers atop the snow-capped peaks of Mount Hermon. The frigid air bit their faces, but the gravity of the moment made nothing else matter. Time seemed to stand still, awaiting the oath that was about to be sealed. Samjaza, his voice firm, began to speak.
I fear I will be the only one to pay the price for this great sin.
A heavy silence followed, broken by the words of another angel.
No, Samjaza. We will all swear. We will all commit to this path. What has been done cannot be undone.
With a resolute look, Samjaza concluded,
Then so be it. The fate of us all is sealed. The fall is inevitable.
With that, they swore, a vow that would transform their souls and damn them forever. The pact was sealed with the strength of a promise no one could break, and there was no turning back. They were committed not only to the fall, but to the consequences that would come with it. And so they descended, not with the gentleness of angelic wings, but with the brutal force of an inevitable fall. They fell like blazing stars, tearing through the sky and leaving a trail of destruction in their wake. As their feet touched the ground, the earth itself seemed to tremble under the impact, for their forms burned with a terrible, unholy light. The silent universe seemed for a moment to stand still. Mortals, upon seeing those brilliant, colossal figures, stood paralyzed, unable to comprehend the magnitude of what they were witnessing. And then, with a voice charged with dark power, Samjaza spoke, looking at his brethren and the mortals around him.
What has been done cannot be undone. We are the fallen, and the world will be different from now on.
With the power of their fiery essence, the fallen angels took human wives, and with them begot children. But these were no ordinary children. They were no mere mortals. These children were born with an ancient hunger in their eyes, and a power that broke the laws of nature. They grew to immense stature, their bodies reaching heights that blocked out the sun. They were the Nephilim, the giants, descendants of a pact that sealed their fate and the fate of the world. The weight of their fall lay before them. The world would never be the same again. Their presence was a living, palpable terror that spread like a shadow over every human tribe. Children of fallen angels and mortal women, these creatures possessed strength and cunning beyond human limits. They became kings and tyrants, gods and monsters, legendary heroes to some, nightmares to all. At first, their hunger was natural. Animals and fruits of the earth were devoured mercilessly. But their appetite grew, becoming insatiable. Soon nothing nature offered was enough. Their eyes turned to humanity itself. The hunt began, and with it, the world writhed in agony. The earth itself, corrupted, began to spawn horrors, deformed creatures, abominations that should never have existed, impossible hybrids, born from the encounter of species separated by divine design. Every cry of pain, every human tear seemed to fertilize the soil with the corruption that spread like a plague. And the Watchers, their celestial parents, witnesses and architects of this chaos, shared with humanity forbidden secrets, meant to remain locked in the heavens. Atazel, prince among the fallen, taught men to forge weapons, cutting swords, impenetrable shields, instruments of war that would shape kingdoms of blood. Others brought dark astrology, magic, and spells that distort the soul and bend the will. Humanity, intoxicated by this knowledge, sank into profound corruption. Violence ceased to be punishment. It became celebration. Chaos was now law. Even nature groaned. Darkened skies hid the sun, and the ailing earth showed signs of a disease as old as the mountains, a rot that stretched from the heart of life to its deepest roots. It was the birth of an age of shadow, where the divine and the mortal collided, and the world, for a brief moment, knew a horror that would never be forgotten. In the abyss of decay, when humanity's hopes seemed to have been extinguished like a candle in the wind, a divine sign appeared, a voice, powerful and unmistakable, rising from the chaos with the weight of an ancient promise. God, in his infinite wisdom and justice, sent a man. Not just any man, but someone chosen, someone who walked side by side with the Creator, without fear, without hesitation. His name was Enoch. In a land ravaged by the corruption and tyranny of the Nephilim, where the darkness of oppression was absolute, Enoch's voice resounded with the force of thunder in the silent desert. He feared neither the giants who dominated the world, nor the fallen angels who, with their wiles, corrupted creation. He knew that the Almighty guided him, and with that confidence, he cast his message to the winds.
O children of heaven, you who abandoned the glorious home you came from, you who defiled the earth, know this: the Most High sees all, and he will come to judge.
Enoch's words were like a prophecy written in fire, echoing through the mountains, across the desert. But only a handful of souls heeded his warning. The world mocked. The masses laughed at the old prophet, blind to the impending storm that loomed like an endless shadow. God's judgment, however, had already begun. The giants continued their tyranny, erecting their impossible towers, which stood like monuments of arrogance. Their laws, written in blood, were brutally enforced, and humanity, lost and directionless, furiously imitated the cruelty they taught. Enoch, his heart heavy with the pain of a world in ruins, walked among the ashes of the cities the Nephilim had destroyed. He spoke of what he saw, of visions that burned in his mind, visions of a future where everything would be consumed, where destruction would be total and irremediable.
I have seen the end. The mountains will melt like wax. The stars will fall from the sky, and the armies of the Lord will descend in fire and vengeance.
As these words reached the ears of the fallen angels, until then invulnerable, an emotion they had never experienced overwhelmed them: fear. For the first time, they trembled. They, who had fallen through pride, now approached Enoch, their once radiant forms now somber, gripped by the dread of what was to come.
Prophet, intercede for us. Take our petition to the Creator. We beseech his mercy.
Enoch, burdened with the responsibility of a divine messenger, brought the petitions to the throne of God. But the time for mercy had run out. Judgment was sealed, and the scales of justice were about to tip irrevocably against the fallen angels. When Enoch returned, his face was a mask of sadness. evidence that the fate of those who had rebelled was irrevocably sealed. He looked at the fallen angels, now in a state of profound despair.
There will be no peace for you. Your children, the giants, will be destroyed before your eyes. And you will be forced to witness the downfall of all that you have created.
These words, like a thunderbolt, split the silence that surrounded them. The power of what had been said seemed to reverberate throughout the land as the heavens prepared to carry out the sentence that had long been announced. In the vast land where the giants ruled, their colossal figures marched like unbeatable gods, arrogant in their power and blind in their confidence. They believed themselves untouchable, indifferent to the whisper of approaching death. Their hearts were so numb with violence and destruction that fate seemed a distant, irrelevant concept. But time, like a relentless current, is unforgiving, and their end was closer than they imagined. On the horizon, a dark omen began to take shape. As the world sank into the darkness of decay, a new figure emerged from the shadows. A simple man, his soul scarred by the weight of hardship, without fame or power, but with something far more valuable: purity of heart. His calloused hands bore witness to the hard work and humble life he had chosen. His name? Noah. He was no hero of grand appearance, but his soul resonated like a beacon of light amidst the darkness. His eyes, still shining with hope, reached for the heavens, even when the earth was consumed by evil. Noah walked alone, but he was never truly alone. For while the giants sank in their wars and their cities crumbled to dust, Noah walked with God. He was the last flame of justice in a lost generation, a generation sinking into wickedness, corruption, and violence. One night, when the wind seemed to carry the weight of the world, something incredible happened. A radiant light descended from the sky, not with the heat of destruction, but with a fire that would not burn. It was a divine presence, a force that filled Noah's soul with an intoxicating awe, but also with a supernatural calm. The air grew thick, charged with a power that could not be challenged.
Behold, the end of all flesh has come before me. The earth is filled with violence, and because of this, I will destroy it with the earth. Build yourself an ark.
Noah, filled with holy fear, didn't question. There was no room for doubt. The vision was clear. With steady hands and a resolute heart, he began construction. The sound of the hammer striking the woodwork was the only sound heard. It was a solitary rhythm, but charged with profound meaning. Each hammer stroke was a response to the chaos unfolding around him. The people, seeing his work grow, gathered to mock him.
Look at the old man. He builds a ship on dry land. Has the sun fried his head? Where is this blood he speaks of?
But Noah didn't answer. His answer lay in the wood he cut, in the ark that rose. He was unshaken, for he knew he was accomplishing something greater than himself. As Noah continued his work, the heavens moved in a spectacle of divine forces. The archangels received orders from on high, and their wings stretched toward earth. Raphael, the celestial warrior, was sent to capture Azel, the leader of the rebellion that had corrupted Earth's creatures. In the depths of the mountains, Raphael found him, a being of power and desolation. With chains of spiritual fire, he bound Azel and cast him into an abyss of eternal darkness, where he would remain until the end of time. Meanwhile, Gabriel, the messenger, had a different mission. He was sent to sow discord among the giants,
so that destruction would come not only from without, but from within their own hearts. He whispered words of distrust, envy, and hatred, until the once allied clans began to turn against each other. The last war of the giants was about to begin, a war without mercy and without victors. Noah, oblivious to all this, continued his work diligently. He knew that the ark was not just a construction, it was a promise, a silent promise of survival, a promise that despite the chaos unfolding around them, there was still a chance to save what remained of purity, of life, and of hope. And so, as the world around him crumbled, Noah continued to hammer, one beat at a time, like the sound of the last echo of justice in a lost world. And then God spoke for the last time. "Come into the ark, you and all your household."
And they obeyed. From the four corners of the world, the impossible began to happen. From the sky, birds with powerful wings descended in flocks, cutting through the air like living arrows, landing in pairs before the ark. From the fields and forests, entire herds moved like a river of flesh and bone, guided by an inaudible command. From the deserts, reptiles slithered through the dust, obeying a call only they could hear. Even the wild beasts, lions, bears, elephants, and creatures that had never known peace, marched side by side, without war, without fear. On the seventh day, Noah and his family entered the ark. And then, something supernatural happened. The gigantic door, too heavy for any human hand, was closed by God Himself. And there was silence. A terrible, expectant silence. Then the heavens changed. The clouds grew like black walls, towering one over the other until they hid all light. The sun was blotted out. Lightning split the heavens, not as mere flashes, but like flaming swords ripping through the firmament. Each flash felt as if the very fabric of creation were being torn asunder. A deep sound, almost a groan, echoed from the depths of the world. The earth wept. And then came the roar, a deafening sound, like 1,000 storms unleashed at once. The fountains of the great deep burst open. The womb of the earth spewed forth rivers of fury. The windows of heaven were thrown open, and from on high descended endless curtains of water. They were not drops, but liquid walls, heavy, solid as a veil of death that stretched over everything. The world, gripped by terror, ran in despair. Men cried out for salvation. The Nephilim, those haughty giants, sons of corruption, rose on the highest mountains, certain that their height and strength would save them. One of them, perhaps Gilgamesh himself, raised his voice against the thunder. A roar of fury, a challenge to the Creator. But the sky did not respond with words, only with the thunder of a lightning bolt that split the heavens, and with the waters which rose relentlessly, crushing everything in their path. The mountains, once secure and firm, became fleeting islands, and even they disappeared beneath the relentless advance of the flood. A colossal vortex swallowed giants whole. Their roar, a mixture of despair and defiance, was lost in the foam. Their voices, united with those of men, formed a single scream, a symphony of terror, which was soon silenced by the rising tide. For 40 days and 40 nights the world was undone. The forests were uprooted. The temples and palaces of kings were swept away like grains of sand. No flesh survived. No human voice remained. Creation was purified by the tears of divine judgment.
And when the roar ceased, there was only the sound of the waters covering everything, from the deepest valley to the highest mountain. And there, in the middle of an endless, horizonless ocean, a single wooden boat floated. Small, solitary, but holding within it the promise of life. The end had arrived. The end had arrived. The waters, which for so long had covered the earth like a veil of judgment, began to recede. The roar of the abysses ceased. The sea that had swallowed cities and mountains now, little by little, revealed the ground. And the ark, that immense work made by the hands of an obedient man, rested gently on the mountains of Ararat. The silence that followed was profound, almost sacred. It was as if all creation, renewed and purified, awaited the next act. Then the wood creaked. The door opened. Noah, along with his family, descended. His feet, which for so long had known only planks and the rolling of the waves, touched solid ground. The air was fresh, charged with new life. Noah looked around. No empire, no city, no throne of kings had stood. Only rocks, newly sprouting trees, and the vast horizon. And there, in his simplicity, he erected something grand, an altar, not of gold, not of marble or precious stones, but of ordinary rocks collected from the still damp soil, an altar of gratitude. The fire was lit, smoke rose. It wasn't just ash, it was an invisible chant, a prayer etched in the wind. And in response, the heavens opened in color. An arch appeared, majestic, crossing the firmament. It was a rainbow. Not just light broken by rain, but the Creator's own signature, a pact, a promise. God's voice echoed through eternity. Never again would water destroy all life. It was the covenant of mercy. Years turned into centuries. Generations flourished. The land multiplied with peoples, kingdoms, and cultures. The soil bore fruit. Cities rose, commerce pulsed, laughter echoed again, the world healed. But not every scar disappeared. In the silence of the new land, ancient memories still whispered. Stories told around campfires, legends of dark times when giants walked among men. And they were not just legends. The Anakim, the Rephaim, the Emim emerged in the land of Canaan. People of immense stature, warriors whose war cry made even the bravest tremble. Their swords were like tree trunks, their shields mobile walls, their footsteps like thunder. And so the echo of the ancient Nephilim seemed to have returned. When the servant of the Most High, Moses, led Israel to the borders of the Promised Land, he sent 12 men to spy out the territory. They walked through fertile valleys, saw fortified cities, immense walls, and vineyards so vast that a single bunch of grapes required 2 men to carry. But they also saw the giants. And when they returned, 10 of them spoke in trembling, fearful voices.
The land devours its inhabitants.
We saw the children of Anak. Beside them we were like grasshoppers. And that's how we looked in their eyes.
The people wept. Murmurs of despair spread. Faith wavered. But 2 men refused to bow to fear, Joshua and Caleb. They raised their voices against the terrified crowd.
Do not be afraid. The Lord is with us. These giants are nothing more than bread for us. They will fall before the hand of the Most High.
Words of faith against an ocean of fear. And so it was.
When the time came, under Joshua's command, Israel marched. The trumpets echoed through the valleys. The dust of the road rose under thousands of feet. They were not marching for glory, nor for a king's crown. They were marching for the promise. The cities of the giants rose like walls against the sky. Hebron, Deir, colossal fortresses, gates so high they seemed portals to another dimension. But no wall was greater than the arm of the living God. The giants roared. Their spears were like towers, their cries like thunder. But before the Lord, their strength was nothing but dust. One by one they fell. The terror of men was conquered by the power of the promise. And then the last shadow lifted, and the last of the Rephaite kings reigned in Bashan. His name was already legend. His fame preceded his presence. They said his bed was made of iron, colossal, so immense it seemed like a monument to an ancient god. His size, his strength, his very existence were a challenge. Og was the final echo of the Nephilim, the last cry of a world that had resisted divine order. And Israel stood before him. The human heart might waver, fear might whisper, but the promise was greater. God's voice still guided his people. And before the Lord, no giant remained standing. Og fell.
Bashan was taken. The shadow of the past was being burned away by the light of faith. But the final echo, the greatest challenge, was yet to come. Among the Philistines, a champion arose, Goliath of Gath, a nearly 10-foot-tall man-mountain, clad in bronze, who shone like a cruel sun. For 40 days he defied Israel.
Today I challenge the armies of Israel. Give me a man so we can fight together. Why do you hide like cowards?
All Israel feared. Not even King Saul dared face him. But then, from the sheepfolds, a boy emerged, a shepherd, armed only with a staff, a slingshot, and 5 smooth stones from a brook. His name was David. The battlefield fell silent. On one side, Goliath, a living weapon of bronze and mockery. On the other, a shepherd boy with nothing but faith in his heart.
Am I a dog that you come to me with sticks? Come here, boy, and I will give your flesh to the birds of the air.
You come against me with sword, spear, and javelin, but I come against you in the name of the Lord Almighty, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you decide. Today the Lord will deliver you into my hand.
The heavens watched. The angels held their breath. The stone flew, a blur, a hiss, a sickening crack. Goliath, the great giant, the invincible champion, fell face down to the earth. The ancient fear that had haunted humanity for ages was shattered by a boy in a single stone. David rushed forward, seized the giant's massive sword, and cut off his head. The Philistine army, seeing their champion fall, broke and fled in terror. The nightmare was over. Under David's reign, the last giants were hunted down and destroyed. Ishbanob, Saflami, the last remnants of a cursed lineage, fell one by one. They were not slain by angels or demigods. They were slain by mortal men, armed with something the giants could never comprehend. The age of shadows had passed. The memory of the Nephilim became a warning, a story whispered through time, a reminder that even the most terrifying darkness can be overcome. It is not strength that conquers giants. It's faith.
Amen and amen. I hope you learned something from that today, because we're going to be talking more in further detail of what happened to the Nephilim giants and what happened to the women of the earth. But for now, we're going to talk about what's happening to the fallen angels. As we read in 2 Peter chapter 2, line 4, it says the following: God did not spare the angels when they sinned, but cast them into Tartarus. This is the furthest pits of hell where there's no end, and committed them to the pits of the darkness reserved for judgment. And so with this being said, we also read in Jude chapter 1, line 6, and the angels who did not keep their own domain or habitation or estate, depending upon your translation, but abandoned their proper abode, and he has kept the eternal bounds under darkness for the judgment of the great day. So brothers and sisters, we know that in the last days that judgment will come upon the angels, according to Revelation chapter 20. They'll be casted into the lake of fire for their abominations and what they did against humanity. And so with that being said, brothers and sisters, I hope you enjoyed this video. Stay tuned for part 2. We're going to talk about what happened to the women, and then we're going to talk about what happened to the Nephilim giants concerning demons. I know this is a heavy subject of talk, but we need to address these issues if we're going to fight and confront the enemy head on. So again, I hope you enjoyed this video about the Nephilim giants. If you want to look up more information about them, please do so that you understand what we're really truly up against, because this kind of spiritual warfare is intense, and this is a battle we need to constantly prepare for every day in our lives. So brothers and sisters, thank you so much for joining me here today on this channel. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe. I thank you all so much for helping me out in expanding my channel. Please share the content far and wide, so that way my algorithms can boost up a bit, and so that way we could get the message of hope out in this world. Keep in mind, at the end of the day, God wins. Our King, Yeshua, Jesus wins. And we win because of those who put their faith and trust in the Lord always and endure unto the end. You will be saved. Hallelujah. So thank you so much again. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Stay tuned for part 2. Take care. God bless.